Hello, Culture Matters Podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. By authoring the story of your life, you make a choice to become a victor, even in the face of helplessness. You develop your journey to a life story you get to write while training the muscle of resilience. Authoring your life story is taking charge of every aspect of it, no matter what the original plan was or the factors in it that were out of your control. Lior Arussy said that, and he is not only a multi-time author and an amazing speaker, consultant, advisor, leader in the professional services space, and understander, if that's even a word, of high level culture, customer service, and excellence. New book that I read this week, in the last 2 weeks, Dare to Author, the author of Dare to Author, we're talking about, and episode 756 of the Culture Matters podcast. When you're done listening to this, go over there. It'll be a very different conversation. Thank you so much for coming back to the show, Lior, and thank you for helping so many companies, many of the most successful companies in the world. The difference that makes for our listeners is a big difference in the world. So thank you for all the amazing work that you've done.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Jay. I'm looking forward.
Dare to author. So, part one, we start with ultimately why. Why is this important? What does it mean for you to even author there, right? Because the viewer might be thinking, oh, write a book? What do you mean in the context of
Okay.
authorship, right? And why is that important in our society?
So let's open the lens for a second and let's think about the following. If each and every one of us will think about our life and divide it to three buckets. Bucket number one, things that we planned and happened the way we planned. Bucket number two, things that we planned and didn't happen the way we planned. And bucket number three, things that we didn't plan but happened to us. I bet you that the last two buckets will be far more full than the bucket of what we planned and the way it happened, right?
Yes.
And that brings us to reality number one. Most of our life is unplanned events. Most of our life are not what we planned it for it to be, but we need to adapt or to adjust to a reality that was beyond our control. And then the question you ask yourself is, am I capable? What is my instinct reaction to situations I didn't plan? My business have been helping organizations and people deal with extreme change, radical differences and transformations. And what I discovered was that the most of them were not adapting to change fast enough or properly because they didn't have the muscle called resilience and absorbing change. Because our default reaction is victimhood. Wait a second, it's not happening the way I planned it to be. Well, guess what? You being born was not exactly your plan. Okay? So when I talk about authoring your life story, I'm talking about crafting it in a way that you will not be the victim of that narrative, but that you will be the victor or the hero of that narrative. I'm challenging you to take charge of your life, which consists of majority of it events that you were not planning, and develop the skills to not just survive them, but to thrive them and to be proud of what's coming out. That's what I call authoring. This is not about documenting your past stories. This is not about bringing to closure your emotions of the past. You know what, Jay? Some emotions will never have any explanations. Some stupid things that people did to you in your past will never have a logical reasoning that will satisfy you. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking your life experiences and converting them constantly to future strength, new tools, and discovering what is your superpower.
Where does intention play into the why, if at all, or attention?
So intention is the beginning of your choice. In the book, I'm arguing that if you become the victim or if you become the hero, they are equally a choice. Choosing not to become a hero is choosing to become a victim. And I know it's a word that a lot of people will feel very, very uncomfortable with, and I'm doing it deliberately because the first section you talk about, I describe variety of things, biases, prejudice, wrong beliefs that are shaping our perspective of life and are ruining our life story, are making
Mm,
us victims to our life story. So I'm like, guys, wake up. If you don't author that story, it's going to be authored for you. And I would like to assure you, you're not going to like what you see.
mm. Right now in the corporate landscape, is there some type of phenomenon occurring that you're picking up on or you picked up on that you're reacting to in a proactive way? Or
Now,
yeah, that's what I
let's take the hottest issue in corporate world right now,
okay.
hybrid work. Okay? Let's call the baby by its name. Managers hate it. They resent employees who do that. They feel that they need to give them that privilege, but they never got them when they started their career. They resent those employees. Some of those managers think that their employees are not working properly, and they feel that they are victims to that situation. What these managers did not ask is the question of hybrid is here to stay. How do I thrive in it? What skills do I need to motivate my people? How can I leverage the fact that they're closer to home and they have not gone through an hour each way of awful traffic and coming to work completely stressed out? Where's the opportunity here? The difference between a victim and a victor or a hero is the victim is constantly focusing on look at what they've done to me. They're blaming, they're shaming, they are uncomfortable, they're rejecting change, they
Mm,
are passively trying to postpone the inevitable. The hero is saying, bring it on. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'll never have all the answers. But I know there's an opportunity here and I'm going to find it and I'm going to do something about it. So let's take this cultural challenge where so many managers are still afraid to admit that they find hybrid work environment very problematic because they don't know how to engage with people that they only see through Zoom, and they're not asking the question, where's the opportunity here?
so into part one, when you're talking about prejudice or bias or components of our psychology, this management hybrid condition, we might be wrapped. I want to make sure I follow like contextually, right? Our listeners, we might be wrapped up if we're in management with the old way, with the old
Yeah,
paradigm.
yeah.
And we're so that's one example of how authoring your
Yeah,
life, you could break through that.
let's take another example. Let's take another example. I deal with that a lot. Let's take gut reaction, Jay. I want you to answer me. Good news, you know the answer because you read the book, but when you originally, good news, bad news, what do you want first?
Oh, well, well, the good news. Well, there's
Most
a person
people
in the book that is the bad.
most
They were
people
used to.
actually ask for the bad news.
Yeah.
And I'm pointing out to that mindset. A lot of managers will tell you, give me the bad news first. Give me the bad news first. Because in their mind, and they're not even aware of it, when you ask for the bad news first, you are a fixer of the present. You are not a creator of the future. People who ask for good news first are always going to say, whatever the crisis is, it's good news because I'm going to find opportunities. I'm going to, in the
I see.
fracture, I'm going to find a new ray of light. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm going to try to shine through it. So let's take another example, okay? Which actually comes a little bit later in the book, but it's a true situation. Um, I was getting ready for a presentation, and we were standing in the back, about to go on stage. And the CEO of that organization said to me, "Oh, Lior, remind me after the event. I wanna schedule some coaching sessions with you so you can teach me how to do public speaking because you're very engaging, and I don't seem to be able to do that." And I don't do coaching for managers, so let's start with that. But I said to him, "Are you serious? You want to be coached?" He said, "Yeah, I want to learn from you. What is your secret?" And I said, "You know what? Here's coaching session number one, free of charge. I want you to tell me why you love this company." He's like, "What?" "I want you to tell me why you love this company." What
Mm.
makes you endure all the difficulties of this company and still wake up in the morning and want to do your job? And he told me the story, and it was actually a very touching story. So I said to him, you know what? I want you to leave your PowerPoint right now aside. I want you to go to your employees and I want you to tell them why you love this company and what makes you endure all the difficulties and get up in the morning and be excited. And he goes there and he does it. And Jay, you could hear a pin drop.
Mm.
And he came back to me and he said, why did it work? I said, I'll tell you why it worked. You are a product of a 30-year-old manager, your first manager in 1995, who taught you certain things about management, and you're replicating it 30 years later. Do you know how many things changed since then? You don't use Windows 95. So why do you use Windows Management 95 with your employees? And let
Mm.
me tell you why it worked. Because your manager 30 years ago had an image of what I call the invincible manager. I know everything. I've got all the answers. You just follow what I tell you to do. Employees today don't care for that. And if you portray the I've got all the answers, I'm an answer dispenser, you have no doubt, then there's no room for them to come help you. When you told them about how much you love this company, first you connected with them as a human being, not as a title. That is a change of relationships. And second, you didn't tell them you know everything. You said, these are my goals and I need your help. Because the moment you presented
Mm.
yourself as a human being, you also spoke to them as a human being. And from a one human being to another human being saying, guys, I'm on a journey and I need you to help me. And the moment they heard that, they said, okay, we're going to discover it together. You gave them permission to try. You gave them permission to experiment. You gave them permission to go on a journey that is not fully charted. It's a totally different new leadership skill. And storytelling allows you to connect with them. Nobody connects to numbers. You can put as many numbers on the screen. Nobody will care. People are not motivated by numbers. They're motivated by stories. They're motivated by inspiration. They're motivated by emotions. They're motivated by a vision. They're motivated by a challenge. They're motivated by the ability to make an impact on people. And that's what you gave them. So
Mm.
you want to talk about a hot issue? A lot of managers and executives are stuck in Windows 95, in Management 95, and they cannot make the leap to Management 2025.
I want to, is part of management 95 in the corporate context, the emphasis or the attention on the problem first, but it's reversing in this age. The reason I ask, so in small little startup companies, the operating principles may not, they're in that, go-go stage or that euphoria stage. They may not be used to hearing no or used to hearing criticism.
Yeah.
But as it grows, if we don't figure out what the problem is, the whole ship could hit the iceberg. But I want to make sure I'm following you correctly.
Mhm.
Are you implying that in this current generation, it's important to not get fixated on the, because in your book you talked about cynicism, not get fixated on the problem because you missed the forest and the trees. There's a nuance here that I want to really, I think was really brilliant
Sure.
in the book that I want to,
Sure.
if you can unpack it for our audience, like
Yeah.
the big company, right? We have to know what the problem is, or else we could hit the iceberg. But however, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater and lose the entrepreneurial spirit that we had when it was like tiny.
Yeah. Let's
So
let's talk about that. Let's talk
I'm
about that. No, no,
I'm
no. You're touching
grasping
upon.
at this, but I'm not fully
Yeah.
like.
No, no. Let's talk about this. And let's again open the lenses a little bit wider. When you're a startup, you're experimenting. You listen to your customers, you try new things, and you're not sure. That means your listening is a muscle that you've actually are mastering because you need to absorb every cue from the customer, every possibility in order to get to a form of a product, a solution, a technology that will be acceptable. And the strongest muscle you have is your ears and your listening. okay? And you're experimenting, you're comfortable with that. The moment you hit success, the moment you feel that success is in your hands, you're shifting from listening and question marks and into exclamation marks. You
Mm.
design a one-size-fits-all process, you design a one-size-fits-all solution, and you're just trying to retain this and maintain it, and you no longer listen. The biggest problem that companies have is that they are tweaking their formula of success while their customers are shifting to new places and they're not there because they haven't listened. So the same muscle that got them to the success is the one that is not available in order to evolve faster. Now, in 1995, the amount of changes that we faced were very, very slow. Just to remind you, Jay, between Windows 95 to Windows 98, we had 3 years to get used to new features.
Yeah,
Three
yeah.
years. What do we do today? Our iPhones are getting updates every week. Do you understand? The speed of change have changed dramatically. It's so radically different that we need to develop a skill of listening and adapting much faster. Let's remember again, between Windows 95, Windows 98, 3 years. 3 years.
Mm.
Today, it's being updated constantly. So my point is, organizations in the past could have allowed themselves to have long-term plans and stay stable and consistent with a certain process. We don't have that privilege anymore. Things are changing so fast that the real skill is no longer the process and the consistency. The real skill is the resilience and the ability to adapt to change faster. And those who will win in the future, the core competence of the future is not your technical skill set. It's your ability to move faster and to absorb faster change.
This book, Dare to Author, it's deeply fixated on me as an individual, our listener as an individual. Um, why?
Good question. Most of my work, as you know, was corporate. This is the first time that I'm venturing. This is my 10th book. This is the first time
Amazing,
that I'm
yes.
venturing to a personal piece. And I'll tell you, the first conversation I have with every CEO, whenever we are hired, I said to them, look, I understand what you're trying to achieve. Now I'm going to talk to Susan from accounting. And they will say, who's Susan from accounting? And I said, oh, you don't know her? Because she's in charge of your strategy execution. And he's like, no, I have a VP of strategy. I said, no. Susan from accounting, she's in charge. He said, but I've never heard about her. I said, yes, because what you don't understand is that strategies are being killed 100 small little deaths by Susan from accounting and David from customer service and Amy from marketing and Joanne from sales. You are the sum total of your employees' decisions.
Mm.
You are the sum total of your employees' decisions. If they choose to embrace change, you will be ahead of the game. If they will decide that this is too frightening and they are victims, you'll be behind or you will become irrelevant. So we have to go back to Susan from accounting and understand what is holding her back. What are the cynical voices in her head? What are her fears from change? And here's what I discovered. If you'll go on Amazon today and put change management, there'll be thousands of books that were written about it. The predominant school of thoughts in change management is that people are afraid of the future, and that's why they're delaying it. What we have discovered is something completely different. What we have discovered is that the issue with change management comes not from the future, but from the identity. And let me explain what I mean by that. So we as human beings, when we hear the word change, we equate it with a negative judgment of our past performance.
Mm.
So if I come to you, Jay, and I said, look, Jay, you've been managing this financial model and you had your Excel, but now we are moving to SAP. Now we are moving to Salesforce. Now we are moving to Oracle. Now we are moving to ServiceNow. What you, Jay, just heard is me claiming that the last 10 years of you using your Excels was a failure. You, Jay, are hearing that I'm asking you to write off your last 10 years. And consciously or subconsciously, you, Jay, are saying, no, I can't write off 10 years of my life like that. That's just not going to work. So what happened is people are equating their identity with the tools that they're using. And when we ask them to change tools, they feel that we are asking them to change identity. So what do? In our work, and I talk about it in the book, we separate the purpose from the tools. The purpose remained the same. The tools will evolve. Let's take an example. Let's say you work in a bank and you were working in a certain branch and you started 30, 40 years ago. When you started, they used those abacus, little things. And then one day they took away that abacus and they put this calculator with a paper strip. Those were, the top of the technology. Then one day they said, hey, forget those. We're having a desktop. Now you have a computer. And now they're giving you iPads. Your role as a banker, helping people fulfill their dreams through financial means, did not change. You continue to help Mrs. Smith save for her granddaughter's wedding. You continue to help Jonathan save for a mortgage for his house. You continue to help people get smarter with how they use and save and plan for their future. That doesn't change. There is a continuity there. What changes are the tools that you use together. So when we do this separation, the identity is not being attacked. The identity remained the same. I'm the person who can make a difference in people's lives. It's just that I'm getting a newer version of the tools. So when we do that, we remove the threat for the past. We remove the threat for the identity. We create continuity of superpower, which is the impact we make on people. And then we can focus on helping you gain new tools.
Is part of it realigning or reintegrating the narrative then?
Yes, but the narrative is not under attack the same way that before, because the narrative of we are here to help people doesn't change. We are here to solve people's problems, doesn't change. When your center of gravity, as I talk about in the book, when your center of gravity is the impact you make on other people and not the tools that you use, not the techniques, not the processes, when the center of gravity is there, that actually is the constant. That doesn't change. And that frees you to absorb change at the tools level because the identity is not being threatened.
Is part of what you're going to the beginning of our conversation, that this hybrid work, management reacting to this prejudice, this judgment as a consequence of a new paradigm, that it's not being proactive because it hasn't dared to author yet.
Yeah. So let's take that as an example.
So then it becomes the victim, ironically.
Yes. So let's take
acting
that
as
as
a
an
victim.
example, Jay. Let's take that as an example. Great example. Okay. So what is my definition of a manager? I am doing staff meeting every Monday at 9 a.m. for an hour. And I need to have a PowerPoint and everybody needs to sit in a conference room. So my definition of a manager is conducting this weekly meeting. Now, you take away the conference room, you take away the PowerPoint, you take away the people because they are on Zoom, and I lost my identity. Because where am I without that? But we told you the meeting can take place, just do it on Teams. Don't do it physically. Okay? Do it on Teams instead. But because you're so attached to the process and not to the purpose, you're feeling threatened by the absence of being able to see everyone and so on and so forth. Now, let's take a look for a second at Teams and ask, where's the opportunity in Teams that I don't have in a physical meeting? Let me
Mm,
tell you what it is. So if your meeting consists of 15 to 20 people, your ability to get feedback from people is very limited, because if you let every one of them speak, this meeting is going to take too long, right?
absolutely.
Correct. So let's say that I have a 5 slides presentation about our goals for this week. There is a function called reaction. They can provide me reactions on the spot on every slide. In a physical meeting, I will not wait for clapping because I'm in the middle of my presentation. But in a Teams, I can start seeing hearts popping up because they love the idea. And then I see yawning emojis when they didn't like the idea. And all of a sudden, whoa, I can get that. I can turn to 20 people and say, look, guys, we don't have the time for everybody to speak, but I want you to go to the chat and I want each and every one of you to tell me exactly what you're thinking. And by the way, we have here something we need to vote on. So I'm going to put this online voting right here, and everybody will just vote for a second, and boom, I got some new tools. So if your purpose is motivating and activating your people, the conference room becomes secondary. It's just a tool. And if you start thinking like a hero and not like a victim, you're not going to complain about all the wrong things in Teams. You instead will say, okay, what features are available to me that were not available to me
Okay.
before?
So here's what, so new tool, reintegration of identity. And this is my question after you. I've been filling out the book. There's
Perfect.
questions after every chapter.
Perfect.
Now, my curiosity, my speculation that was, okay, that's going to increase self-awareness. So this is my question. If the new tool leads to new identity, because that's to be reintegrated, is part of this, and this is what you're offering with Dare to Author, new competence. I've got to learn how to respond. Like, let's say my brain, I'm getting booed in the thing, and I'm the thing, I'm the person, the leader. I'm not used to getting booed at or out, whatever. I would have to have another level of self-awareness or self-development. Um, so my question is that part of your retooling us when I go through this and I'm answering these questions, I'm daring to author. Is that part of I'm gaining a level of self-awareness and clarity so I can lead in this new paradigm with these new tools.
Let's talk about being booed in the middle of the presentation about an idea. Okay. What is the alternative? In your old conference room, in the old conference room, they all nodded. Nobody told you the truth. And then they
Yeah.
left the room. They left the room, and nobody told you that they're not planning to do anything about it. So you are completely unaware. You think that you got acceptance, and all you
Yes.
got is people dismissing you without telling you the truth. So, yes, I'm actually giving you a new tool that you did not have before of immediately understanding that the idea that you just presented is not going to fly, and people are not comfortable with that. They may not confront you personally, but this gives them a semi-anonymous way of telling you that, and your chances of refining your idea or refining your plan so people will do it and not wasting 3 months until you find out that nobody did anything with that, that's a huge gift. That's an immediate thing that Teams gives you that the personal face-to-face conference will not give you. So that's an
I think what
example of gaining when you look at the situation as I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to be the master of Teams. I'm
yes.
going to explore it better because it's going to help me activate my people in the most authentic way so they don't have to like cynically dismiss me. That's huge.
I want to give a testimony. I think your book, going through it, if I'm open enough to author, that's helping me handle that feedback.
Yeah.
Is that part of your goal? Because
Yes.
because the person that where everyone is thinking they disagree and leaves the room, they never get the opportunity to have self-awareness around them because they're just in a infantilized, I guess, in a sense, by their people. You're saying this technology is giving us a feedback loop, and I just want to make sure I follow. Like if I'm going through the book, so on page, chapter 13 or chapter 12, how proud would you be of the story you told your children? Like of how
Yeah,
our family showed up in the global
yeah.
pandemic.
Hmm.
It's like that makes me really look like, yeah, who am I? How did I show up? What do I need to work on? I'm taking from this book that's helping me become the person that I could handle feedback in a meeting. Whereas if I'm not, so can
Because
you elaborate on that a
yeah,
little?
the alternative is worse because if you think that your job is to be the best presenter in a face-to-face meeting, you'll just build bigger distances between you and your people. Instead of activating them, motivating them, inspiring them, you'll just inspire cynicism. And and they will just stay distanced and they will stay unactivated and they will continue to drag their feet and they're not going to rise up to the better version of performance that they can deliver. And if you are in a more authentic conversation where they can actually share with you what they think,
Yeah.
so maybe there'll be a better idea, or maybe you can defend your idea because they have questions and they've never bothered to ask the questions because they've never had the opportunity. I'm saying when a new tool comes on the stage, it doesn't change who you are, but it does give you new possibilities. If you'll act like a victim, you'll never see those possibilities. If you act like a hero, you will start exploring them and saying, what can I do with this?
Do you think that management today is uh, acting out at some level victim reactivity as a consequence of things changing so fast, and that's partly where it needs to be retooled?
So I think that
I know that's very
relationship.
blanket, but like,
Yeah, yeah, no, 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 no. But let's unpack that for a second. Relationship between management and employees have gone through radical shakeups. It started with the Great Resignation, continue with quiet quitting, continue with act your wage, continue with a wage application, which means basically I'm gonna apply somewhere else if you're pissing me off. Continued with lazy loosey jobs, which are basically how to do the minimum. These are all hashtags on TikTok. Okay.
wow.
These are all hashtags on TikTok. And you can see millions of people consuming this as the new relationships with their management. So we've been in several years of a real shakeup. The traditional relationship in which my manager tells me what to do, I do my best, and I get paid, those are gone. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for a sense of impact. They're looking for a sense of empowerment. They look at themselves as talents. I'll give you an example from football, okay? When, in 1 week, we got Bill Belichick and Saban leaving. And there was an interesting article that in the Wall Street Journal that described that the new talent in football no longer looks at their managers or their coaches as a form of authority because they are the talent and they are the brand. And those guys are just like
Yes.
little help on the side. So the style of Saban and the style of Belichick are no longer valid because the new talent is behaving in a very different way. And I was thinking to myself, if that's what's happening at football, what's happening at every day?
Brilliant. So I had a thought earlier we are talking that I've never really thought in this way. I want to ask your feedback on this because you talk about influence culture in the book. Influencer, what is influencing us? Who are
Yeah,
we following? I love
yeah,
that part of one of the chapters. Um, you mentioned earlier that the tool. So I want to go back to that example of a company
yeah,
where how the employee was servicing the customer, the tool changed. So the first thing they're thinking is is it, what did I do wrong, or
yeah,
who am I now? And what I was getting from that was you're implying, hey, the company needs to remind them like, you matter, this matters, this is why we exist, this is what we're doing. Like that goes back to the first show we had. The
yeah,
customer, the why, the story, why we exist. Okay.
absolutely.
My question to you is when it comes to this social platforms, the influencer conversation you were talking, what, if at all, role could that could these platforms, these technologies be having on that on that football player, on us, on our listeners that are listening to this, on me, on you, the tools changing. Like we're seeing the world through these lenses.
Yeah.
And
So
could that have an impact on how people are being in, letting themselves be led at their jobs? Or I'm envisioning like the assistant at the front desk scrolling on their TikTok in between somebody walking up with like a package. What are the consequences of that fight for attention between company, labor, attention?
okay. So I don't think he got there yet in the book, but I talk about the book about people who goes to a museum. There are four type of visitors in a museum.
Yeah.
The first one buys a ticket, goes, stares at the pictures, and hope that they'll inspire them. But they haven't done anything in order to try to understand the picture. The second one will make a little bit of an investment. In a lot of museums, they sell you those guided audio guides. You listen to the explanation and whatever. And at that point, you're starting to engage a little bit more, understand what you're looking at and the color composition and so on and so forth. The third type actually joins a guided tour. There's a real guide who's passionate, tells you what's going on. And the fourth one did homework at home. So when they come, they actually understand it. And I use this as an example for the issue of purpose in the workplace. A lot of organizations have forgotten how to infuse purpose in what they do. And they focus just on processes and adherence to processes and adherence to using tools and compliance and all these type of things. But you are absolutely correct that there is a battle of attention and there's a battle of commitment between those social media stuff and my real ability to make a difference. And the role of a leader is to remind people they can scroll Instagram or TikTok and be jealous at other people who are fooling you to believe that 1 second of perfect picture on the Eiffel Tower is what defines them, even though you don't know all the troubles that they have and all the diseases that they have and everything else. But you are a passive, jealous person of somebody else's story. Or you can lift up your eyes, look at the person who just came with the package, and say, how can I be impactful to that person right now? Because the difference between what's going on my social media and what's going on in my real life is the social media, I'm a passive, jealous person. And in the real life, I'm the person who can become the hero. That's your choice. It's the same minute with two possible stories. One story that will portray you as a jealous person of fake stories of other people. And the other one is the one that's going to place you straight in the middle of your real life and give you an opportunity to help
This
someone.
is a very I want to ask this because let's say 5 years from now, our listeners are not some of the company, they have not adopted Dare to Author and they're not
Yeah.
living through that, right? Let's say so could a consequence be 5 years from now, similar to the anxious generation, Jonathan Haidt's research, they're trying to stop children from having phones in the
Yeah.
classroom.
The anxious
Could some
generation.
giant
Yeah.
companies potentially, because they didn't get proactive, be looking at, the way say, get rid of hybrid work? Could they be saying, you can't use your phone in the office? Meaning, you see what I'm saying? Could 5 years from now or someplace in the future, companies that
Let's
are
start.
not able to, do you see that top down
Let, let's
possible in the
let's
culture having
start.
so much?
Let's
Yeah.
start with the fact that schools today, some private schools are prohibiting their students from using their phones. Okay. I can tell you that my teenage son is going to a camp in which for a whole month he will not have his phone. Okay. Because the tools available on the phones are not coming with the etiquette and the skill sets of how to manage them. So they become managing us. Okay. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories about, how Meta is designing their products. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the fact that we need to equip people with the ability to look at data correctly, not to spend the time on useless choice if you may, on binging and all these type of things. And would it be possible that a company will come and tell you you are not working with your personal phone and you're not allowed to look on social media? Yeah, I think it will be there, because if they will see that productivity is being affected in a certain way and they're paying you to come and do your job. They're paying you to come and create value. Staring at social media is not creating value. It's the opposite of that. It's taking your awakened hours of your day and deciding to get drunk. It's just that you're not getting, if you'll come and tell me I'm going to get drunk between 12 and 1 o'clock every day, what do you think the company is going to say? No way, not on
No
my
way.
watch. Okay. You're not going to get drunk here because we're not paying you to get drunk. And why is that? And you'll say, well, I'll be happier. I will not think about my problems. Drunk is actually a good benefit for you because I'll be all cheerful and I will not be cynical. And they'll say, no, you're not going to get drunk in the office. You're not going to get drunk at this factory because being drunk is a distraction. Being drunk is not productive. I would say the same thing can happen with social media. You get drunk on some content that distracts you, that does not allow you to focus on your tasks, does not allow you to provide the service you're supposed to provide. We'll go on and on. You go
Do
to
you think
retail
there's a
stores
connection
today and
with
they're on their phones instead of looking at you. You're being paid to here to serve me, and instead you're on your phone. You're checking on social media. What's going on?
do you think there's a connection with the usage or overusage and the absence of your thesis here, like the intention around authoring one's
I,
life?
I think
Like
I
the
think
less
there are
that
a
I
lot of
have going on,
yeah.
the more I'll be
I,
apt to overuse that.
I use FOMO as an example of what can author our life story as opposed to us authoring our life story. FOMO as constantly being focused on what other people are going through their lives instead of asking what is our life, what is my story worth. And I'm saying if you're afraid of FOMO, let me introduce you to the fear of missing your own life. Okay, FOMYL, fear
Mm,
of missing your own life. This is the
got that.
price of FOMO, the fear of missing your own life. One day you'll wake up and you'll be able to see that you have watched thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours of some stupid people who wanted to take advantage of you for the eyeballs that you are providing, in which they are being paid by YouTube or others. But what you've missed is you missed your own life. You can't bring those hours back, and those hours are going to be wasted.
You've talked about imposter syndrome in part one. What role, what role does imposter syndrome have with competence?
That's
What
an
relationship, rather?
excellent. No, no, no. There's a huge relationship. See, most people equate the imposter syndrome with the anxiety of being discovered that I'm not qualified to do what I am. But what they don't understand, there is a deeper impact here. Because when does the imposter syndrome happens, Jay? It happens when you do something new, when you do something you've never done, which means it happens when you grow and you develop. And if the imposter syndrome is going to be that cloud that authors your life story and that fear is going to be dominant, then you know what's going to happen? Over time, you'll stop growing and you'll stop doing new things because you'll be afraid of the imposter syndrome. So the imposter syndrome is not just the anxiety of being discovered, it is actually creeping in and not allowing you to experiment and try new things and
Mm.
develop new skills. This is the real risk of the imposter syndrome.
How? So how? I want to
So
author
perfect. So,
my
so
life. I want to take the reins and be that employee listening to this that wants to get the most out of their employer, or the manager that wants to is it now you've convinced them that are listening, hey, let me give my people the benefit of the doubt. I
okay,
want to level up,
okay.
right? Or the owner saying,
So
okay,
I'm
it starts
using
with me.
so at the heart of it, as we talked about earlier, life is changing too fast, and we're facing more and more engagements or events that we have not planned and we don't know how to deal with them because they're unprecedented, which means we need to develop this muscle of embracing the future and looking for opportunities there. My answer, and I think you've gotten there already, I take the COVID chapter as a great example. Because at COVID, we all started as victims. Nobody knew what to do. With COVID, our health system, our academia, our government, UN, nobody knew what to do. And in the book, there's a full guided journey with questions. How did you feel? When did you hit rock bottom? When did you decide that you're going to change it? There are guiding questions that are going to help. You can use it at an organizational level. You can use it as, on personal level. But I'm saying in order to develop that muscle, you're going to start taking a couple of events that happened in the past, and instead of just leaving them as a scar, you're going to develop them and say, what did I learn about myself? What is my superpower? Which values came to life? How did I shine? And by being able to learn that, the next time you're going to face a change, the next time you're going to face a challenge, you're not going to look at them and say, I'm helpless. You're going to say, hey, unprecedented events, bring it on. Bring it on. I've done 5 of those already, and I have the tools to. I don't know the details of the unprecedented event, but I know the theme. And the
Mm.
theme is I need to be the hero without having all the answers. So that's answer number 1 to how you start developing it. You analyze past experiences. You learn what is the organizational or individual strengths, what is the superpower of that organization, and develop the willingness and readiness to look at unprecedented events without the sense of victimhood. Number 1. Number 2, in the book, I coined a new term called the gratitude denial syndrome. In the gratitude denial syndrome, I talk about the fact that when people give us positive feedback, when people give us compliments, we dismiss them.
A woman, yeah.
Yeah, we dismiss them. We put them down. We are always afraid that positive feedback is just a mask for a disguise for bad news. And I'm saying, guys, by dismissing them, by not including them, you are actually taking the fuel that's supposed to help you. Because when you get positive feedback, people tell you what your superpower is. People tell you how you make a difference in their life. People tell you how you made an impact. Collect those, not from an arrogant standpoint, but collect them, curate them. So next time you're hitting rock bottom, you're saying, this rock bottom is not who I am. It's just something that's happening to me today. But you know what? Just a week ago, I was I was able to impact someone. I had the power. So grab those feedbacks, curate them, collect them, so you can actually use them in the next unprecedented. So the 2 quick wins advice is A, convert historical events into future tools, into future resilience, into your toolbox, and understand what your superpower is and what is your frame of reference to handle unprecedented event and change. And the second one, take the positive feedback as a fuel for the future.
The woman that you had, I think she was working for you. You were
Yes, yes,
trying to give feedback,
yeah.
and it was only like she only understood the negative. Did you
She
think
was
that?
afraid. She was afraid that I'm providing negative feedback, positive feedback in preparation
Yes, yes, it
for
was like one of those
negative
fake.
feedback. And we all do that. We dismiss it in our head because we think it's just a fake move.
Well, when I was reading that, I was thinking this is also how people train people to do things. It seems inauthentic and manipulative in some of the
Completely.
management
I hate the
literature,
concept.
right? The literature.
I hate the concept of 5 positive for 1 negative. You have something negative to say the negative, but don't put the positives as hostages
Do you think that
for the negative.
part of what's malicious or not, yeah, noxious about that
It's
in maybe
manipulative. It's simple manipulative.
is it in a sense taking away someone's agency?
Absolutely.
Like
I
I was just
think
trying
I
to
think
think
we are
psychologically,
stripping
right?
them of the positive that they have and they earned and they deserve because it's all conditional upon the negative that we're going to share with them.
So
That's just not right.
there's another gentleman, a CFO, so do you, this is my question, in the book, the CFO that you asked to walk out, that was
Yeah.
realistic in quotes. Do you think that there's a connection, like those 2 figures, the woman that was expecting a negative after a positive over a 10-year ends up becoming like that guy?
You connected the dots in the best way because if over time I'm constantly negative and negative and negative and nothing is good in me, then guess what? Nothing will ever change. and
Man,
then I will
yeah, there
become
you
a
go.
cynical beacon. That's exactly, yeah,
Well,
over
that's why I love
time.
it at this book, because I think you're speaking to like this hybrid work we started off, right? The whole system is becoming cynical. You figured that you came to that conclusion. Correct me if I'm missing this or I'm missing parts of
No,
it.
no, no,
But like the
you're getting
system
it
is
right.
becoming cynical and reactive, and you're saying, "Hey, dare to author, look back at yourself." So yeah, look back at yourself, ask the important questions, and
Absolutely.
move into the future. So those two people are connected. It felt like they were
They are.
when I was reading it.
Yes.
It's going
Yes.
down. The things are going. The
That's
culture is
right.
going down.
So when you get towards the end of the book, and
Wow.
I want to leave on a positive note, I demonstrate that certain people that we know actually reach their best performance in their 80s or even in their 90s. And what's the difference between them and the others?
Mm.
There are people who are looking at their failures and shrink their opportunities because I said, I failed in this and I failed in this and I failed in this and I failed in this. So ultimately, I like, this is the only thing I can do. So over the years, they shrink the story. Okay. There are those who look at their failures, convert them into their superpower and their toolkit and their resilience, and then they're opening new opportunities because they're more confident to explore them. The first group, which are victims in their own story, shrink their story ultimately to nothing. The other ones who are in control of their stories, who are constantly converting, distilling, and improving their story, find themselves shining in their 80s.
Wow.
And there's examples there. I don't want to give a spoiler to
No,
anyone, but
the
I
listeners
think
need to pick
you'll
up the
see it.
book. Dare to Author, Lior Arussy, and the other 9 books. Get those too. Um, and yeah, I hear, I love filling out the exercises where you're actually
Perfect.
challenging us. You're challenging us to actually answer these tougher questions if they're new, right? You said imposter syndrome is doing something new, or
It's it's
trying
it,
something new. It might be
it's
new
the
to
place
answer
of
these
growth.
questions.
It's the place of growth. Do me a favor, Jay. One
Yeah.
small request. I love to do this. Send me a picture of one of the pages with your notes because I love to share on
Oh
LinkedIn how
yeah,
people are using the book as a guide and not as anything else. And what
I
I'm
love
going to
it.
do is, for people who really kind of mastered the book and wanted more, I created a workbook, a work plan. I'm going to send it to you. It's a PDF, and you can, after you finish the book, you can start distilling it for yourself. And I think you're going to love the experience.
If you're listening to this right now, where can people connect with you fastest and bring you into their company or
Lior
whatever?
Arussy,
Yeah.
LiorArussy.com is the best place to connect with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, follow on Instagram. This is where I'm active the most. Get the book, and most importantly, give it to someone you love. Give them a new hope. Give them the choice to become the heroes. I'm doing it because I believe in this. The book is already being translated to different languages, and between the last time we spoke, Jay, and today, the book actually won the 2024 Nonfiction Book Awards in the United States. So I'm very, very,
Look, I got,
yeah.
who would you be without
So
imposter fear? I said teacher, advisor, author, creative,
send
Kurt,
me a picture of that. I
abrasive.
love to share it
So,
with people. It's
yeah, I love the
perfect.
book. I
Send
really
me a
do.
picture, and I'd love to share it. And I want to show people this is not just a book to read. A lot of people tell me I'm not
No,
sharing
no.
the book
Yeah.
with anyone. This is I'm gonna go back to this book again and again. And that's really I'm trying to help people develop this, future readiness because that's gonna be our new competitive advantage, personally, individually, or organizationally.
If you're listening to this, share this with a friend that you love, re-listen, go pick up the book, Dare to Author, and we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks so much, Lior.
Thank you.